over at his house, and we're going to show you the countryside in South Africa. All right, cool. And those are the kind of friendships that you have. You know, I would have never known that one day Bob and I would be working together very closely. But those were the friendships that I was privileged to develop and grow up with in this business. So I'm really excited for you to hear this. And don't forget, as you're taking notes, 5 generations. Bob Pearson, and his business is growing after all these years. Incredible growth. Bob Pearson, will you join us on stage and share what this idea is? You know, and Bob has been a part of these retreats from the very first one in 2015. Thank you, Bob. I can't imagine it without you.
Thank you very much. Do I have a clicker too, Josh?
Yes, you did. Give me a second.
Well, it's a great honor to be here. Tremendous privilege, and so happy to have the 6 of our team here. We're all so blessed to be with you guys. I respected Lawrence and Marjorie before I ever met them because of some things I read about them and some things that Bob Shar said about your kids. Remember Bob?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And,
Is that who it was?
So I loved them. I was impressed with them, that family, before I ever met them. Thank you very much. And then when I see the other leaders, Gabe and Josh and Chelsea, Josh pretty much saved our business, to tell the truth. I just couldn't have more respect. I tell people all the time, I'm not a peer of his because he's about 1,000 steps above me, but I tell people all the time, Josh is one of my closest friends. And I just, like I said, I couldn't respect him more. Love him very, very much, as does our whole team. And then Alan and Nicole have made a huge difference. I don't think Alan knows how much he's helped me. But anyway, so it's just a joy and privilege and honor to be with you guys. This is a phenomenal team. Phenomenal team. So, I grew up in Africa. How many knew that?
No.
Not very many. I grew up over in Africa. And we grew up absolutely dirt poor. We never had a penny. So I've heard a lot of people talk here about exotic world travel and blow your mind destinations. So I'm going to show you one of the things I like best about the business, and that's world-class travel. So you see that place? That's the biggest theme resort hotel in the world. It's called Palace of the Lost City, and Jerry took the world team there in 2000. I mean, we had a blast. And you see that white beach there? That's where I met Louis Smith. We were in line at a world team event. I don't know how many NeoLife countries were there, maybe 40, 50, I'm not sure. And Louis was in front of me in the buffet line. He turns around and says, "My name is Louis Smith, I'm from South Africa." I said, "I'm Bob Pearson, I'm from the USA." USA? He said, "I've been praying I'd meet someone at this event from the USA. And he said, "I have a cousin that lives in the US. I said, "Where does he live?" He said, "St. Helens, Oregon." I said, "That's 2 hours from my house." So when Louis came here to the US, he let me come to his first team retreat many years ago, and I've learned so much from Louis, it's unreal. But that's where we met. And over those mountains there, that's the 3rd biggest game reserve in the world. And the Jeep picked us up at 4 in the morning at Palace of the Lost City right there. And it was pitch black and cold. By 6 a.m. we were over those mountains, down into the game reserve. The sun was just coming up, and the guide stopped the Jeep. So look right there, 50 yards from us, 2 mama lions hunting a big herd of zebra. 6 a.m., that's breakfast time, right? Zebra are protein. So I think those lions were thinking breakfast pack. So we sat there and we got the whole thing on video. It was incredible. I'd like to tell you more, but we just don't have time. But NeoLife, see, when you grow up dirt poor and you stay in places like this through the business, I would never pay to stay there. But since Jerry lets us go to marvelous places and all of us can go there. This is that place at night.
Wow.
Another shot of it at night. And then Josh mentioned traveling in South Africa. That's South Africa. I don't think it's very far. I'm not sure right where that is, but Josh and Chelsea and I were privileged to travel with my brother too, and Lucky Van Buren. And isn't that beautiful, you guys? So Jerry lets us go to phenomenal places. That's a bed and breakfast around Parl and Stellenbosch, and Lukey took Josh and Chelsea and I and my brother showed us different places. But isn't that beautiful, you guys? And then this last one, world-class travel that's available to us as world team members. That's just at Cabo just 2-3 weeks ago. And the really cool thing about this is, you know, Jerry takes us to such phenomenal places we get to go, right, Natalie? Phenomenal places. And so it's not unusual. You run into big shot celebrities at these places because they're so nice. They like to vacation there too. And I just go right up to them and ask for my picture with them. So you guys want to see some celebrities I ran into at Cabo?
Yeah, I can imagine.
There they are.
Yep.
Those are big shots. Okay, so I found out at dinner that night I got to sit by some celebrities too. On my right over the left, very inspiring rising world team member, Barbara Chichester, wonderful person. She's here with Mr. Christian, great man. And then on the other side is Wayne Leslie Hansen, #1 world team. And Hansens, I just got to tell you, they are as pleasant and gracious and generous and kind and humble as you will meet. Just wonderful people. Wonderful people. And I've been blessed to get to work with them for about 40 years. I was 4 when we started. Leslie was 7 and Wayne was 8. So we started business together. I've been blessed to work with Steffi too. Steffi is a powerhouse in our team. Last month she did 14,000 all personal volume. How about that?
Oh, wow.
Blessed to have Leslie with us and Sherry with us. So thank you for letting us come and join you guys.
Yeah.
After dinner I found out I'm not the only one who likes to be photographed with celebrities. I found out Barbara does too, so does Wayne and Leslie. So right by the pool, by the dinner table, we found some other celebrities. They let us get a picture with them. There they are. Rising stars, dynamic couple. Where's Gary? Is he in here? Oh, okay. Well, anyway, Gary and Shelley, great, wonderful, amazing people. And then there's some more celebrities we ran into. The last day. We were having breakfast up on the roof by the pool last day, remember Jeff? We ran into these two very dynamic, wonderful couple, the whole family. Brendan, what a wonderful man. Bruce and Rachel, wonderful people. And so just want to include that about World Team Travel because I love it, it's fun. So I got asked to tell our story, so I'll tell a little bit of our story because we do have 5 generations of our family been very blessed to use the product, so I'll tell you about that quickly. Go through this as fast as I can, and I'll just tell you that our story with NeoLife started with a disaster. I mean a tragedy. I'll go through this quickly, but somebody sitting in one of those, you don't usually think that'd be someone that would build $1 million a year sales business, right, with NeoLife? But that's what happened to us. The way we got in, my aunt was injured on the job, and the real disaster didn't happen through the injury, it happened through the treatment she was given. And we don't know if the doctor wrote the wrong amount or the nurse misread it, but they gave her way too much of these certain drugs, and it dissolved the cartilage in her joints. So all of us, our knees can bend over backwards, but they're not supposed to bend over forwards, but hers could bend over forwards because of damage from the drugs. If she picked up anything heavy, the weight of it would pull her knuckles right out of joint. So very severe damage. So we could never afford the doctors that she got to see, top specialists, but workman's comp had to pay for all the treatment because it happened on the job. So the best specialists in the state were all unanimous, she'll never walk again because the damage is so severe. But she was a woman of great faith. So when they said you'll never walk again, she was not about to take that sitting down. So she had a direct connection with the creator of the universe, the head biologist, the head biochemist, the genius. And so she went direct to God, went a little above the doctors, went direct to God. And she didn't really know if her prayer was possible because all the doctors were unanimous, she'll never walk again. But she prayed, she had a prayer of desperation, as would any of us, because she's feisty and a woman of great faith. So she didn't want to spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. So her prayer went like this. She said, "Dear Jesus, if there is anything that can heal my body, could you please help me find it? And she started taking vitamins and minerals, fruit juices, doing whatever she could to try to get healthy, and kept praying to her, Lord Jesus, could you please help me find something? So her prayers got answered. About 3 years later, she came across a guy. How many here have heard Jim McAfee speak? Total genius, right? Intellect like unbelievable. So she met a guy like Jim McAfee, Mark Jackson. He lived in Redding, California. He heard her story, total genius. And the first thing he did is he explained to her that there is zero similarity between what we have and vitamins you find in a store. I mean, zero, none. So he had to first tell her that, there's no similarity to what we have compared to what you're using. Then he wasn't the least bit daunted by what had happened to her, the injury, or by the doctor's prognosis that you'll be in a wheelchair the rest of your life. He said to her very matter-of-factly, he said, any part of your body can rebuild if you give it what it needs to work with. So she thought, wow, that's pretty wild claim. I'm 71, been in a wheelchair 3 years, best specialist in the States, they've never walked in. But she thought, well, I've been praying all this time, I'm just going to ask for prayer. So she started taking 20 calcium a day, 20 C a day. The shake, not once a day, not twice a day, 3 times a day. Everything huge amounts. We have it all written down at our work. This was 48 years ago. And in 10 days, she could stand up. Is that impressive, guys?
Yeah.
So in 10 days, she could stand. Well, in a year's time, she went from the wheelchair to a walker, to a cane, to nothing. And she, give her a hand. She could never walk with ease like us. This was about as good as it got, was a shuffle. But it actually is miraculous for what happened. So she went on to build $1 million a year sales business. Okay, and in those days, this was before BV. Don't have time to explain that, but BV is something for inflation. Back then, they only had PV. So when she was selling $10,000 a month, everything was in personal sales, no directors. You can't count somebody else's $5,000 in your total. This was all her personal volume. And there was no auto ship. There's no 3 for free. There's no video. You order everything by the case, do all the shipping. You pay all the bonuses. Charlotte knows how it was back then. And she was selling $10,000 a month, all personal sales. And I think in today's dollars, it could easily be 20, 30, 40,000. Would that be right, Josh? Dwight, from 10,000 in the 70s? Okay, so is that incredible, you guys?
Yeah.
Incredible. So she came to Oregon because my grandfather was her brother-in-law, and Grandma also was a woman of great faith, and she was praying for something for Grandpa because he was not on partial disability, but total disability. When they put him on total disability, they fully expected him to die because he had an incurable disease. Actually had 2. He had emphysema. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but he couldn't stay alive without drugs to dilate his lungs. Had to carry oxygen in the car. He also had Parkinson's disease, and he got on the product, not to get over that stuff, because all doctors will tell you that flat out, that's incurable. So that wasn't his motive. He just got on them to try to maintain what little health he had left. Well, he started getting stronger, more vibrant, more energetic. You can see him there jogging on the beach. I'm not going to tell you the whole story, but emphysema guys cannot do that. Neither can Parkinson's guys. And no one knew he had Parkinson's except our family. Because as long as he's on the products, his hands are completely steady.
Wow.
Speech perfect, could walk perfect. Parkinson's guys, sometimes they start shuffling, they get real stiff, and he's jogging on the beach. There he's riding a bike on Jerry's ranch. That's a high spring ranch. He's about probably 87 to 90 years old there. Okay, so he completely got his life back. He was the first guy in the Northwest ever to build $1 million a year sales business. Okay? And he wasn't even really trying because he's like in his 70s. Okay? And anyway, he was a fabulous leader. Charlotte, you were very good friends with him, right?
Very good, yes.
He admired Chuck and Charlotte so much. Very, very much. So that is the first generation of our family. This is the second generation. That's my dad on the left with mom on his shoulders. He's so strong at 76, he can still carry mom on his shoulders. So he's been on the product for probably 46 years now. Next to him, one over, is my brother with his wife. We all like to climb on each other. Next one over is me with my former wife. Sadly, we went through a divorce, but anyway, we like to climb on each other. So here's my kids. Top one is my daughter. Next one down is my firstborn son. Next one down is my daughter's husband. Bottom one is very dear friend and family. So this is when Josh came to Eugene. We got 3 generations of our family working in the business at that time together. And our fearless leader is on the left towards the wall there. Breathed new life into our team, saved our business, because Grandpa was such a dynamic leader. And after he was out of the picture, because he got promoted to heaven, we kind of languished for about 20 years. I kept going to world team events. Didn't want to miss that. Anyway, Josh has brought new life into the business, so we just thank him so much for his leadership, his kindness, his love, his patience. We just love him. Thank you, Lawrence and Margie, for such a fine Matter of fact, if I want to really impress someone, I just tell them I know Josh Clark. They never believe me. I say, yes, I do. They say, no way. I pull a picture out, sets them right up. They always either want my autograph or they want to touch me. So I really respect Josh. There's my boys. I put this one in because quite a few know. How many know Bradley? Quite a few, because he came to Lane's events with me. There's my daughter. You guys think she's pretty? Maybe she.
Looks like
I gotta tell you, her mom is an attractive woman. But when her mom and I did genetic tests on Carrie, because we had some health questions, the report came back pretty much what I expected. It said her good looks came from the dad's side. There she is at the graduation from a program she was in. Those 3 kids there, my kids are 4th generation NeoLifers. They all had it from conception in the womb, all growing up. We never had one vaccination. I'm kind of proud of that. Bradley, when he went in the military, got vaccinated, and Carrie, when she went into nursing, did, but they had great, healthy childhoods. They got raised on the product. So this next picture, there's a 4th generation and a 5th generation NeoLifer. So there's a testimony tied to this, because 1 in 5 women experience postpartum depression or anxiety. Now, Carrie told me, she said, Dad, by the way, that's my favorite word in the whole English language, Dad. She says, Dad, I have girlfriends, they cry for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks after they have the baby. She said, I have no problem, because I use salmon oil all through the pregnancy. And I'm not an expert on this, but somebody told me that one possibly very large contributing factor for postpartum is that in the 2nd and 3rd trimester of the pregnancy, the baby's brain is developing like crazy, and we have tons of omega-3 in the brain. So if the mama doesn't have enough omega-3 going in, the baby's going to suck it from mom's body to make the brain. So anyone their omega-3 goes too low, they're going to kick into depression. They could get suicidal. They have to get institutionalized. It's severe anxiety, depression. Like I said, I just found this article that says 1 in 5 women get that. Carrie had no problem. She used lots of salmon oil. And then the 5th generation there, Keely, she has a NeoLife testimony too. Carrie told me that she came to my office one day, and she said, Dad, I need to get acidophilus. I said, what for? She said, well, Keely has eczema. I said, I never heard it helped that. She said, well, I saw online it helps. So she gets some acidophilus. I got to dramatize this for you. About a few weeks later, she comes in through the front door of my office. Dad, it worked! She said it only took a few days. All the eczema cleared up. You seen that too? All right. Okay, with acidophilus. And Carrie's husband doesn't believe in the products. I said, what did Travis say? Oh, he was impressed. Because that's his little girl. So even Keely has a NeoLife testimony. And we start them young on nutrition. They get it in the womb in our families. Keely's sitting on my desk at work, and you see she can already read labels. She's very conscious about what she's scrutinizing that label. There she is in my office. And there she's got her Vita squares. The one on the left is my daughter's firstborn. The one in the middle is my son's. And the one over there belongs to another friend. And when Keely comes to my office, can you guys see what's under her arm? First thing she does, she makes a beeline for the back where the blender is. Wow. She was there about 3 days ago with her mama and her little sister. So she loves the shakes. And The reason Keely's looking kind of excited on the far right there, those three are my granddaughters, is Keely on the right like this? Well, she's real money conscious because her parents gave her a piggy bank, so she wanted to save. And see that little Jeep there? The reason she's so excited, I was explaining the marketing plan to her. And I explained to her, because she loves the Jeep, I said, when you get the Sapphire, you get $600 a month for that. So she's excited about the car allowance. Some kids are motivated at an early age. Now this one, can you guys see what she has in her hand?
So like garlic or?
She's at my office, this was like 3 days ago. And I can tell what Carrie's listening to on the CD in her car by how the kids talk. Because when my granddaughter starts telling me about targeted delivery and Allie and Allison, I know what she's been listening to in the car.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
garlic.
well that's my last one there. But gonna jump into, I'll tell you my testimony. And I don't really like telling this because it's got some sadness to it. But I'm a person. The reason I'll tell you this is because I found it says anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the U.S., affecting 40 million adults that are 18 years and older. 18% of the U.S. population, nearly 1/2 of those diagnosed with depression are also diagnosed with anxiety disorder. So I suffered from depression for probably 40 years, okay, because in my 20s, 30s, and 40s I had testing done on me. And it showed depression off the charts.
Wow.
And it showed me at 99% depressed. I said, what's that mean? They said, that means out of 100 people, you'd be the worst. Now, none of my friends believed it. I think it's because I grew up in circles where you're not allowed to be depressed. So I think I've learned to carefully mask and conceal it. They didn't believe it. But my former wife, she was aware of that it was at 99% level. Also, ADD. Now it's a household word, but back then people hadn't heard of it. One day my wife found an article on ADD. She said, have you ever heard of ADD? I said, no. She said, well, you only have 12 of the 14 symptoms. So anyway, when the divorce happened, the depression got much worse, got suicidal, crippling anxiety, panic attacks. And I was on 4 medications for it, wasn't helping at all. Couldn't function. My own secretary said, don't come to work. She said, you scare the customers because you look like death warmed over. And could barely function at all. And then Charlotte Shelton helped save my life. She doesn't know it, but she sponsored Emma Jo Krause. And Emma Jo Krause is a licensed medical professional. And someone must have told Emma Jo, because she lives 2,000 miles from me, somebody must have told her my life is hanging by a thread. And my family was making me see a psychiatrist regularly because they were afraid of suicidal tendencies and all that. And Emma Jo said, look, all you got to do is take 6 salmon oil. Simple 5B complex. She said, you'll have 0 problem. Well, Emma Jo is a licensed medical professional. She's a nutrition genius. I trust her completely. I've been friends for 30 years, fortunately, that Shelton's recruited her into NeoLife. So I started doing that. And the very first follow-up appointment with the doctor was so subtle, slow, gradual, I couldn't tell. But the doctor took me off one of the 4 meds and cut the other 3 in half. No, she took me off, and cut the other 3 in half. Well, the next follow-up appointment, she'd ask me a million questions, watch my eyes, facial expression, etc. She cut it in half again. Next one in half again. Last one took me off everything. I said, are you sure? Because I'm going to China in 2 weeks. She said, sounded like a direct quote of Emma Jo. She said, you're having 0 problems. Exactly what Emma Jo said. Now, I kind of want to tell that because, as you just heard, there's millions of Americans suffer from anxiety and depression. Millions. And they'll be on this junk for years. And it says right on the medication covers suicidal ideation, depression, anxiety. It's insanity. And we don't have a Zoloft deficiency, I assure you. And I found an article by a medical doctor that she's a psychiatrist. She says she's been on both sides of the prescription pad. And in other words, she's had heavy depression herself, and she's written a lot for other people. And she said all anxiety is, you guys remember the slide from Josh's Web Health Talk? It says that inflammation is underlying Alzheimer's. Remember that slide? We all show it. Well, she says all anxiety and depression is, it's inflammation in the brain. Plain and simple. Now, some are going to say, no, that's too simple, but that's how she treats people now. She doesn't use drugs. She uses anti-inflammatory. Well, I believe that 100% because when Emma Jo put me on 6 salmon oil a day, what is salmonella? It's natural anti-inflammatory. Depression gone, anxiety gone. I think anyone can get some from time to time, but not crippling and killing me like before. So, you know, we got to get people, there's millions around us suffering with that. If we get them on salmon oil, B-complex, that's what saved my life. Okay, so last thing I'll share is probably the most important thing you can do to grow your business is be around a growing upline. Now for me, I don't have a growing upline because mine's retired. They're the most wonderful people you can imagine, but my upline's retired. So Alan Blaine, I've driven 1,000 miles, 6 times to be around Alan. I went to, I live 500 miles from Alan, so 1,000 miles round trip. I would go there for a breakfast of champions. That's an hour-and-a-half meeting. But I'd hang out for an hour or two afterwards, picking his brain, or Nicole's, or David and Chandel's. Did that 3 times, then 3 times to Chihuahua for retreats. So you got to be around a growing upline. So please never miss a VOC with Alan, or Josh and Chelsea, or Shelly and Gary, or Jeff and Julie. Dwight, you guys got tons of good leaders in your team, so never miss being around a growing upline. Never miss being at these retreats. Thank you very much.